We often praise classic films without even knowing that they're actually remakes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not praising remakes in any way, but knowledge is power. So here are 4 good films that are remakes. I'm Zach Bishop, welcome to 4 Films. First up, straight from the 80s, is The Fly, starring that mystic oracle known as Jeff Goldblum. A remake of a classic black and white film, this film is the polar opposite. Now, why do I say that? Well, I haven't actually seen the film in probably about 20 years, but the images never leave your mind, and they never left mine. Parts body horror, parts hilariously violent, this remake took full advantage of the 80s practical effects. I highly recommend this film for its great performances from the cast, Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, and for the spectacular visuals. But keep in mind, this film is super gross. In fact, I'm going to barf now. Next up is Night of the Living Dead from 1990, directed by Tom Savini and starring Tony Todd as Ben and Patricia Tallman as Barbara. First off, I have to say that this is one of my favorite zombie films of all time. It actually feels the most how I would imagine a Resident Evil movie should be. And it's funny because you can clearly see the influence that this film and the original Night of the Living Dead have on the RE games. As far as characters go, in this version, Barbara is actually a badass. She grows into a badass naturally. Instead of the understandably traumatized dumb blonde, she's now a badass redhead. And it provides her the extra challenge of not being confused with one of the soulless ghouls wandering around in search of flesh. Now, I will give you this. The dialogue can be a little dated at times. I'm talking about you, Mr. Cooper, with your yo-yos and such. But the whole thing overall is fantastic, it's great, and that little bit of clunky dialogue actually helps relieve some of the tension. Because one thing this film really is tense. There's that slow build-up of mounting terror that's just right outside the door. Also, ghouls, or zombies as they are commonly known to most, they freak me out. Now, maybe it's from seeing this film and many other zombie films, as well as playing the Resident Evil games at an early age, but you add all that up and that helps build that tension. To me, this is truly terrifying. But then again, they're so slow, you can just walk right past them. Now, how terrifying this is to me? Well, let's just say if you were to watch this film on a quiet sunny day 20 years after the fact, you'd still lock the door and look out the window just in case. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Third up is 2002's Red Dragon, starring Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter and Edward Norton as Will Graham. This prequel to Silence of the Lambs is actually a fantastic follow-up to the original film, Silence of the Lambs. This film is much more appreciated than the sequel that we got, Hannibal, which is kind of bad, and replacing Jodie Foster with Julianne Moore was a huge mistake. But more importantly, for all intents and purposes, this is a remake of the 1986 film Manhunter. And I say that because it follows the same story because both that film and this film are based off the Tom Harris novel. You know, the one called Red Dragon. So yeah, it works. How does it work? Well, the acting and the suspense in this film are fantastic. Possibly the best part of this film is the entire ending sequence. This is exactly how every prequel should be. It's very satisfying. And once again, like my other 2 films on this list so far, I highly recommend you watch this one if you haven't seen it. Last up is 2007's The Hitcher, starring Sean Bean. Now, this film isn't exactly great, but it does star Sean Bean. Spoilers, he dies. And it has a very satisfying conclusion. So this remake wasn't exactly well received. It's got a pretty low score on Rotten Tomatoes, if that matters to you at all. But more importantly is the personal experience I have with this film. That's why I think it's great. So back in 2007, I caught a late screening with a friend. Back in the day, I had a flip cell phone. So, I got a call. Well, I had to flip open the phone to see who it was. I couldn't tell from a front screen. So, I flip open the phone, I see it's my mom. I don't say anything because the movie's going. It just happens to be at a part where a character says in a very creepy way, "I'm so sorry it came to this." And then I hung up the phone. I didn't think any more of it, and the phone continued to ring on vibrate. My mother had to have called at least 10 other times. So finally, when the movie's over, I call her back. Now my dear, sweet, worrisome mother, she was freaked the out. Because from her perspective, all she did was call me to see where I was at night and heard a creepy voice and then the phone turn off. So she thought I was kidnapped and killed. Of course. Huh? What the? Hello?
I'm so sorry it came to this.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks. Gotta go. So, real quick, I just want to take this time to say thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can join my Patreon to support these videos at patreon.com/TheBisness. But most importantly, I have a couple of announcements. One, new show, Tuesday Tunes. It's about me making music. You'll get to see the inside scoop, and it's kind of a challenge show where I challenge myself to create a song off the top of my head in 30 minutes. The other announcement is I'd like to make a huge, very big thank you to you, the viewer, and everyone who's subscribed, because I finally reached 100 subscribers. It means a lot to me, because it's all for you. I want to entertain as many people as possible. It says so in the bio area. That's always been my goal, is to make people happy and entertained, and it's all for you. Small parts for me, but that's because I like doing it. But thank you again. Sorry to ramble on. I babble sometimes. I'm the babbler. So I'll see you next time on 4 Films.